Social Security isn't running out of money. It has a shortfall. Now the question is, where did the shortfall come from? The common perception and kind of like the commonly accepted logic is, it's just a function of the baby boomers. We have this really large generation. They're going to live a long time, and therefore the, system is basically not able to support, the changing, you know, features of the US population. Honestly, it makes a lot of sense and it's really intuitive, but it is wrong. I mean, it's partly right, but it's mostly wrong because Social Security knew that there was a really large population that was going to retire. The last time the program was reformed in the early 80s, the boomers were already, in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. And we knew that we had a massive generation and we knew that they were going to live a long time. It's not what's different about the population that matters for Social Security. It's what's different that we didn't expect. And we absolutely expected to have a large population retire kind of en masse in the future. And the reason, I say why we knew that, or kind of evidence that we knew that, is that when that reform occurred, they actually accelerated a payroll tax increase on the baby boomers in order to pre-fund their own retirements. This excess revenue that they collected for decades was deposited into a trust fund that amassed trillions of dollars. And that trust fund is drawn down. So Social Security this year does not have enough revenue to meet all the payouts that it's supposed to make. It's drawing down on its trust fund, aka its savings account. It knew that a big generation was going to come. It saved up for it. Now that big generation's here, and it's drawing down on its savings. The problem isn't that we had a big generation. It's that something happened between the early 80s and now so that the amount of money they saved wasn't enough. Well, probably the biggest one for Social Security's finances is that we did not predict how slowly wages would grow. The 40 years before the last reform saw remarkable wage growth up and down the wage distribution. Rich people, poor people, it was really broad spread. Everyone in America was earning more money. But since the 1980s, i.e., since the last time Social Security was reformed, wages at the bottom of the distribution have completely flatlined. Now, they're starting to get better now, but overall, just your take-home pay for the bottom half of Americans has grown so slowly that it's been referred to as the great wage stagnation. But that's where Social Security gets its money. It gets its money from wages. So if wages don't grow as fast as they project, that's going to create a revenue shortfall. It's hard to kind of perfectly pinpoint how much is due to what, like how much is due to people maybe living longer than we even thought they were going to live, or the baby boomers retiring earlier than they thought they would. I would say estimates are that somewhere between 30 to 50% of the shortfall is simply on the wage side. How do I know that? Is there evidence of that? Yeah, so one way to see it, and you're going to have to stay with me for this one, comes from the wage cap. So Social Security does not tax all wages. It taxes all wages up to a cap. And once you earn over a certain amount of money, right now it's around $130,000, you pay Social Security taxes up to $130,000, and then afterwards you don't pay them at all. So if you're someone who makes, say, $150,000 a year, your paycheck gets bigger in like November or December because Social Security has stopped taking out taxes. Well, that cap in the early 80s was set at 90% of all earnings in America. So they basically lined everyone up, right, of like how much their take-home pay was and said, once we get to 90, where 90% of Americans earn less than this, we're going to put this at the cap. And every year they increase the cap relative to average wages. So the idea would be that they'd always tax 90% of all wages. They now only tax around 81 to 82% because wages above the tax cap for people who are the top 10% of earners, their wages are rising so much faster than wages for people who earn below the cap. And this is something that truly Social Security did not see coming. It is an erosion of the tax base that comes from stagnating wages that is a huge contributor to Social Security.